I ask Mr. Barton to move his notice of motion number 485.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm moving my motion 485, which relates to the announcement by the Commercial Passenger Vehicles Victoria on the 15th of January this year regarding the decision to expand the government subsidised multi-purpose taxi program to include Uber services. The multi-purpose taxi program scheme supports the transport needs for people with severe and permanent disabilities by offering subsidised commercial vehicle fares for eligible members, covering 50% of the cost of the trip up to $60. The scheme is entirely government funded at a cost to the taxpayer of more than $70 million annually. Until recently, the subsidy was only payable on trips conducted in a taxi. While I believe that all consumers should have a choice, and this includes those with a disability, this special cohort needs to be protected. It is my firm belief that the decision to allow Uber, as they currently operate, to service work under the multi-purpose taxi program puts the rights, welfare and security of our most vulnerable citizens at risk. The consequences of this decision also threatens the viability of specialised disability transport services across the state, which will impact most disadvantaged people in wheelchairs. I seek the government today, and I want the support of this House, to put an immediate halt to this decision until the matter is further reviewed and openly debated in the interest of public safety. And the survival of specialised transport services in the broader disability sector is considered. There are a number of concerns with this decision. First of many relates to the safety of our most vulnerable citizens. Up until now, taxis have serviced the transport needs of the aged, the incapacitated and disabled through the multi-purpose taxi scheme. But unlike taxis, Uber vehicles do not have fixed tamper-proof cameras or fixed in-vehicle GPS tracking devices to ensure passenger safety. We hear time and again that Uber drivers have taken advantage of vulnerable passengers simply by turning off their app on their phone. In the past week, we've had 2 instances of sexual assault by Uber drivers reported in Melbourne media. Last year, an Uber driver was jailed for almost 6 years for raping a drunk passenger he took on a detour back to his home. And just recently, there's also been the case of an Uber driver in Brisbane who raped a 17-year-old passenger. These incidents are reprehensible, and I am relieved that these drivers were successfully brought to justice. However, just consider for a moment that what recourse a disabled passenger might have without the evidence provided from a tamper-proof camera and GPS tracking to ensure successful prosecution against any wrongdoing. The safety of our most vulnerable citizens should be paramount when authorising who is available to provide them with transport services and under what conditions. If the multi-purpose taxi program is to be expanded to include other services, then it should be mandatory for these vehicles to be fitted with audio and visual cameras, fixed GPS tracking, and to reduce the likelihood of predatory behaviour, and more importantly, to provide evidence needed to support any claim of wrongdoing. There's a reason we put cameras in taxis all those years ago, because of the need. And I can tell you, people haven't got any better. We know when we put cameras in the cars, predatory behaviour reduces. This should be a no-brainer. Providing choice equally to all consumers is not a cause for celebration alone. We must set the standard for the services allowed to be included in a government subsidised program, and it should not be determined by a bunch of shiny suits in Silicon Valley. Added to this, I put the question to you. Should we allow a corporate entity that shows complete disregard for our legal process by hindering the progress to hold positions of trust in the transport of our most vulnerable citizens? There has been numerous cases to date where police have been called in to investigate potential criminal activity by an Uber service. Rather than the local arm of the Uber business fully cooperating with police in such matters, Uber chooses to obstruct the course of justice by referring all queries and warrants to the Uber's offshore offices. This increases the workload and the cost of police investigation and renders many cases not worth the follow-up. Is that the sort of behaviour we'll be up against if there's any wrongdoing against a vulnerable passenger? Then there is the underhanded tactics used by Uber to dupe customers into thinking it's cheaper than a taxi ride. In September 2019, a current affair outed Uber for quoting comparative taxi fares at amounts far higher than they would normally be outside of the Uber app. I find it incredible that this level of dishonesty is allowed to occur. Consider how a passenger who may not have the capacity or ways to navigate these decisions would react when confronted with a fake and misleading price comparisons. We must protect our vulnerable citizens from such blatant deception. As well as this, we then have the issue of surge pricing. This will leave many disadvantaged people paying more and will expose the scheme's taxpayer funding to unnecessary expenses. All multi-purpose taxi program work should be capped at a maximum regulated fare rate, which taxis are. But for some reason, Uber seems to be able to get away with this. This is not unreasonable, and it is taxpayers' money after all. The changes to the multi-purpose taxi program scheme to include Uber has also opened up the potential for major rorting to vulnerable people being taken advantage of. It is a requirement that the multi-purpose taxi program card holder is present in the vehicle during a trip in order to legitimately claim the travel subsidy through the program. When using taxis, multi-purpose taxi program card holders are required to present their card to the driver on the commencement of each trip and to process the subsidy payment on conclusion. However, when using the Uber app, card holders are only required to enter their card details once when setting up the Uber account, and the information is saved for all future trips.
Thank you.